Hello everybody and welcome to my first discussion video. The topic for these next few videos will be regarding the latest Smash Brothers announcement. My thoughts on what should be added, taken, is it a port, is it a new game, all that stuff will be in these topic videos or discussion videos, which as I've said, well, as they would think, as they should imply, should invoke discussion. That's my whole point in making these videos. I want to get my opinions out on what they should add, what should they take away, and all that stuff. So, first off, before I begin the replays and discuss my thoughts, I had a script prepared for all of this, and reading it and all that didn't pan out too well. Maybe it's, some of it I will probably read and reference, but this is more or less going to be just a reference sheet because I didn't feel comfortable reading it, then getting a line mixed up, and I don't know, it just leaves a bad taste. And I've been doing it all day now, but I feel that I'm better just kind of getting my thoughts out naturally. But I'll see where it leads. I'm going to be using the script as a reference sheet, but if I feel that there's points in there I can just say word for word, I'll go ahead and do it. At any rate, though, the topic for today's discussion for this Smash game is going to be whether it's a new game or a port, and covering the basis for first player mode, along with some other things. So, without further ado, alright, so port or new game? Personally, I find it hard to say, but given the somewhat new logo, Breath of the Wild link in the trailer, and to my knowledge, no sign of Bandai Namco currently leading the development, at least from the art that I've seen, it's leading towards a new game scenario. Now, the development time, it would be for this new game would be 2 years. Because after the DLC, Sakurai stopped working on the project. He took his vacation and all that stuff. So, the only other game I know to have done that in the series was the transition of N64 at Melee. But those are older games compared to this one. That being said, though, I'm not going to discuss whether I think that how developing a game works. Does it take longer, shorter, the same amount of time? I'm not going to try and predict that because I'm not a game developer. Although with a game like Smash, its mechanics don't have the most updated things. What I mean is that gameplay is pretty much it's always been the same. So I don't see much of a difference you would need, That's just my opinion. So first thing I just want to note before I say what I think it's going to be and what I hope it is, because they're both the same, is one, I wouldn't mind if it's a port, because this game has a lot going for it. You look at the whole roster, you look at all these gorgeous levels and 8-player Smash, this is a very ambitious title. And honestly, if it was the same game, most likely it would still keep selling. One, because mainly it would probably have patches in it. And number two, we're already getting confirmation of new characters, obviously. But nothing from this needs to really change, so to speak. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would be a little heartbroken if some of the characters in this game didn't make it. Mainly the third-party characters like Cloud, Bayonetta, Mega Man, Pac-Man, because all of those characters in this game, that's just unreal in my opinion. But it just feels like weird, the thought of it being there being a new game and some of these characters possibly not making it in. There's a good chance most of them will, but not all of them. So some people might be afraid if it is a new game. And they rather just be a 4.5 or a new port with the same, like, everything in, just with a few new additions, kind of like Mario Kart Deluxe for the Switch. It's the same game, just with a different mode, like a different battle mode, I believe, or new additions to it, and a couple of new characters. I don't really think there's any new areas, like new racetracks in that game. I digress, though. But what I think it's going to be and what I want it to be is a new game. Now, I would like to see a lot of these characters return in some form, but at the same time, I'm content with a new game. One, because a new game just means more potential, in my opinion. Because as much as I do love this game, it's not without its problems, and a lot of people know that anyways. But, excuse me. But with the evidence I've already, like, explained with the new logo, Breath of the Wild Link, no sign of Bandai Namco's developers, I think they're strong enough to warrant that this next title will be a new game. My only other reasoning as to why I would think that this is a Smash 5 game instead of a new port is because I feel Sakurai wouldn't be content with doing a port. Although I believe he stated in the past that each of these Smash games, or at least up to Brawl, would be his last. I mean, he kept coming back, for one thing. The other thing is that you look at the quality of these games, and you see a lot of passion and effort put into them. Yeah, burping. You see a lot of passion put into them, and that's not something that somebody that doesn't want to do this anymore does, if that makes any sense. Like, getting Cloud, Bayonetta, like, making a Smash ballot. He made a Smash ballot, or Nintendo made a Smash ballot, whichever one. But there's a Smash ballot, and he's basically letting the fans pick a new character to be added in. I mean, it shows that he cares for the series, and I think he cares just enough to warrant that, no, I don't want to do a new game. Now, I don't know the guy personally. I'm just going based off of the quality of the games and his words in interviews that I've heard. I believe I have one of the magazines from Game Informer that had such words, but I don't remember. So if I'm wrong, I'll accept that I'm wrong and that I'm an idiot. But I just feel that it's not something Sakurai would do. I don't feel that he would just port over the old game and then, like, just give it a few shinier bells and whistles. Nor would I really want that personally, because as much as I love the game, it's got plenty of flaws in it. And there's room for much more and better potential. And I'll start by addressing some things in classic mode. So, for those of you who are unaware of what classic mode is because you're new to the series, or you've never played one-player mode in your life because you are a boring turd that plays online only and is no good at the game. I'm just kidding. If you don't know what classic mode is, just a quick refresher, it's basically a fighting game arcade mode, so to speak, for Smash Brothers. It's an arcade ladder. You go through several different matches against different characters, obviously. And You keep going until you reach the end game boss, which is usually Master Hand, sometimes paired with Crazy Hand. In Smash 64, they had everything preset. You would always fight the same characters and the same battles in the same area or whatever. The only difference is being partners that you'd be teamed up with depending on the fight, because there were 2 fights where you're teamed up with somebody. One against the Mario Brothers and another against Donkey Kong, who was giant. In Melee, it changed to preset matches, but you would always fight a random character. Like, you would be fighting 1v1. You'd fight a total of 4 1 versus 1 matches, with the last 1v1 being against a metal variant of a character. And the other variants, you would have a 2-on-2, a giant character against you and 2 others, and then you against a horde of one particular character, like Team Captain Falcon. And in Brawl, they made the matches and characters random, but you could predict decently who you're going to fight. Like, for example, in the first 3 matches, the first one you would always face a Zelda character. It would be Link, Zelda, Sheik, Ganondorf, or Toon Link. I think there are some exceptions where you'd fight 2 characters in a team match, like Link and Toon Link, or Zelda and Toon Link. You get the gist. And you'd actually be teamed up with a Zelda character. But that's what I mean. It would be a random matchup against a random character, but it's series locked, if that makes sense. The second match would be either you fighting one or both of the Kongs with Yoshi as your partner, or you'd be fighting Yoshi with the Kongs as your partner, or just one of those 3. And then the third match, again, random variation type match, but you will be fighting a Pokemon. Whether it's Squirtle, Ivysaur, Charizard, Lucario, Jigglypuff, or Pikachu. You would be fighting one of them or 2, or you get the gist by now. In Smash 4, though, there's 2 iterations, and real quick, Smash 4 Wii U's Classic Mode is my least favorite. First off, 3DS Classic Mode is basically a multi-path, choose your adventure, or choose your Classic Mode type of route, which has some of the problems I have with Brawls, but with even less variety, at least in my opinion. I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. But with the Wii U's, where you could predict just on the different types of matches, and in the 3DS's version, you could predict based on your route, because your route is indicated by a logo. You'll be able to tell who you're fighting, or get a good idea of it, depending on how many characters are in that series. In the Wii U's, you literally get to choose who you want to fight. The only difference is how many people you will be fighting. Because all the matches that you fight in Classic Mode range from 1 versus 1s all the way to an 8-player free-for-all. Now, a part of me doesn't mind this. It's mainly the AI I have an issue with. First off, in the other games, AI skill, like I'm gonna compare all of them in very hard mode. When you fight the AI in very hard mode, or the hardest difficulty, it was actually a difficult battle, so to speak, because the AI was tough. In Smash 4, the AI isn't technically all that skilled. The problem is your character and the handicap they suffer. Basically, what happens is that the launch ratio for your character escalates drastically. And what happens is that in free-for-all matches, especially the 8-player ones, all the characters usually like to go after you, and the slightest tap can send you flying. Of course, these characters are going to be fighting against each other, but not as serious as they'll fight against you. So the minute you're in the vicinity, they will go after you, especially with items. If they have an item like a hammer, they will go straight for you. They won't really bother targeting other people. Now, if anybody has proof to show otherwise, I'm all for it, but that's always been my experience. So basically, the way I see it is that there is no real skill when it comes to playing in the hardest difficulty on Smash 4's Classic mode. The only hard part in Smash 4's difficulty is the boss Master Hand, who really is only tougher because his movement speed is doubled, as well as the core. And again, your launch rate is incredibly high, so one hit will most likely kill you. But enough talking about the flaws I find in Classic mode, because this isn't about the faults of this game. The only reason why I'm addressing them is because these are the issues I find, and I want to stress what I think they can change or return to Classic mode. And personally, I want them to return to the melee style of Classic mode, where it was a preset match, but it was always a random character. I feel that just not knowing what the character was good enough for me. It would always keep you on your toes, you know? You never have an idea of who you're fighting, and I like that. I feel it gave the most variety. When it comes to Master Hand and Crazy Hand and Master Core, I have a little something different that I would change in the next game as opposed to what they did in this. See, with the Master Core idea, I don't have a problem with it. The problem I have is that the Master Hand fight and the Crazy Hand fight is so undermined because you don't really get to finish them off at 0 HP. So what I would propose is, first off, because you combine their HP, have a full fight with them. And then for players who are playing on a harder difficulty, they get an extra fight afterwards where they fight either the core or what I would recommend, just a Smash Brothers original character. What it would be, I have no idea, but something original that plays like a Smash character. And they would have multiple stocks, special attacks, smash attacks, you know, the basics of any character in the game. But they would play like that, kind of like the last phase of Master Core before it turns into the Fortress, or in the 3DS case, the final form of it. Because the thing is that fighting these bosses or stage hazard bosses like the core I feel it doesn't really give much of a challenge to you. It basically tests your reflexes against the stage hazard, which is good in for fun free-for-all, but not in a more serious match. Just for the record, I do like having my fun matches, so I'm not like some For Glory tryhard. I'm just saying that, like, people who actually want to improve their skills, I would rather them fight just a character that would play like any other, so to speak. Now, that being said, the way that I would make his style of gameplay, or like his moveset, I would make it incredibly overpowered, like a Shao Kahn type of playstyle where he has a lot of armor, he has some really powerful attacks, but he's still like any other fighter. The catch is that you can't unlock this character, so you can't play as him. And yes, I do believe that unlockable characters should remain a thing. I'll get to that in this part later, though. This would be like his own original character. Again, like Shao Kahn, he's a boss character, or she's a boss character. It's a boss character. Pronouns, gotta love them. And they just have this very overpowered moveset and can use a final smash that instant kills like Taboo's wings or the core's shockwaves after you leave it alone for too long on stage. Now, in one sense, I know I'm contradicting my statement when I said that they should go with the original character to hone your skills against normal players. But the thing is that this should also be an unlockable fight based on the difficulty you picked. I think I've already mentioned that before too. Because to go through that, I mean, well, you're going to be putting yourself through hell already. But I think it would be a neat challenge, and it would be a great climactic fight. One thing also to point out in classic mode is I would like there to be adjustable stocks like there were before. When the AI is difficult, I want them to actually be difficult. I don't want the handicap to be because of a launch ratio issue. And in terms of the difficulty scale, like how you set your difficulty, I don't mind that returning the Kid Icarus Uprising type of way. But if you get a game over, do not lower the difficulty, please. Because having to restart your entire run is really annoying. One last thing I've failed to mention about Classic Mode is that throughout the series up until Smash 4, there's always been bonus stages that you would play in between certain matches, which range from break the target, board the platforms, race to the finish, snag trophies, and I think that's it, really. I'd like to see that return in some form with the bonus stages, but at the rate that things have been going, I don't see them returning that well. What I mean is that I would like to see a traditional break the targets again, and not the target blast that it devolved into. That being said, though, I understand that programming a whole bunch of separate levels for each character, if the roster was to remain this large for the next game, I can understand the difficulty in making all those obstacle courses. So if they did bring back bonus stages, I would recommend not necessarily bringing back break the targets. I would like to see it, but I don't want the Brawl version either, where it was just a 5-tier obstacle course. The bonus stages I would like to see return, even if it was just 2 per classic mode, is Race to the Finish and the Snag the Trophy bonus. The Snag the Trophy bonus is good for getting, just straight trophies, while the other one would just test how fast you are and how good you are in terms of getting around an area, just like in Melees. Let's see. Already covered. I think I pretty much got all my thoughts down for classic mode. So the next thing I want to talk about is a mode that should return to the one-player mode, just like from Melee, and that would be adventure mode. For those of you who don't know what adventure mode is and never played Melee one player or Melee at all, adventure mode was a unique mode where you got to play certain levels, like side-scrolling levels, based off of places from the game series that they represented. For instance, you would be able to play a Mushroom Kingdom stage where you got to play a side-scrolling Mario level complete with blocks, Goombas, Koopa Troopas, etc. And on certain occasions you would probably fight characters, like in the first level, the Mushroom Kingdom, at the halfway point you would actually be able to fight a horde of Yoshis, which afterwards you would then complete the level, and then after that you get into a fight with Mario or Peach. However, there were some circumstances where you could manipulate things, such as crossing the end of the stage at a certain time. You could prompt a special cutscene and you'd be fighting Luigi instead of Mario. But my point is that you'd be going from series to series: Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda, Metroid, Kirby, Star Fox, Pokemon, F-Zero, Earthbound, Ice Climbers, and then back to Smash Brothers, where it'd be Battlefield and Final Destination. And it would always be in this preset order. And honestly, it was a lot of fun being able to go through different worlds with different characters, like using Bowser to actually destroy his own minions, and then having him traverse the underground maze based on one of the dungeons from Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, or using Kirby or Jigglypuff to pretty much cheat the self-destruct sequence on Brinstar after defeating Samus. It was all just a whole bunch of neat scenarios, and I really do want to see it return. However, as much as I like to praise it and wish it had come back, it does need some changes. For example, one, like I said, everything is preset, and the order that I mentioned, that's exactly how it plays out. Not exactly in every single way, because there's some matchups and other adventure type side-scrolling or whatever that you embark on. But it's always in that order. You start off with the Mushroom Kingdom and you end off in Final Destination against Bowser, which was kind of strange, but after you found out the secret boss fight, you understand why. At any rate, though, since everything's preset, and also the other thing is that there wasn't many series to take inspiration from, not as they are now. Not counting the third-party characters, like let's go with the Smash 4 roster. Not counting third-party characters, like right now we have a total of 20 different Nintendo series that they could adapt for an adventure mode. Now if they were to use all of that, that would just be way too long for a session for one character. So if they have, so to say, all these different series come the next game, what I would recommend is they have like 7 different scenarios based on different series, all completely picked at random, with the last 2 stages being just like the original adventure mode, being you fight Battlefield and fight an army of whatever the team dummy is, Mii's, wireframes, or whatever they are. And then you end the fight with Final Destination, but either you go with the idea I pitched before of an original character, or they go with a revamped version of Master Fortress as the final boss. But before I get to that, this is kind of how I would put adventure mode in terms of the random presets, or you know what I mean. How I'd randomize it. First off, not every single series can be played like a side-scroller. For example, if Dr. Mario made it back into the game, you can't really have a Dr. Mario-styled level, you know? You can't go side-scrolling through the tube where it's basically Tetris? I don't know. I haven't really played Dr. Mario, but it's kind of like that. It's a puzzle game. And that's not something that warrants an adventure. So, first off, some of the levels should automatically be either just a battle with a special mechanic, or some of them can be side-scrolling. And how to determine the first level will be depending on your character of choice. For instance, you start off as Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser, whatever. You'll always end up in the Mushroom Kingdom stage first, where it can be a side-scrolling level, and then you get to a point where you have to fight one or two Mario characters. I would recommend the Mario Brothers, or whoever. And then the next fight, you go into a, like, for the next 6 fights, you go into random areas. You could start off in a Zelda stage, like Hyrule Castle, fighting your way through until you get to the boss room, which is located in a certain area, and then you go into a fight with Ganondorf, so to speak. Or your second level will be Brinstar or Planet Zebus. I don't know if they're the same or different. A Metroid level is what I'm trying to say. That would be your second level. It's always random is what I'm trying to say. And it would be like that for 6 more stages until you get to Battlefield and Final Destination. Now, one thing to break up some of the repetition that I would in the adventure mode, aside from different side-scrolling levels or combat levels, what I would do is make a return of something that was featured in Brawl and to an extent Smash 4, and that would be boss battles. Now I know I kind of shun bosses a little bit in my rant with classic mode, but see, the thing with adventure mode is that usually when you're not fighting another character, you're fighting an obstacle enemy like a Goomba or a Redead or a Zoomer, etc. You know, the enemies from other games or Smash Run. You'll be fighting one of those. So, like, natural fighting is not something that would come to mind. I think it would be a better fit in adventure mode. But what I would do is put in a total of 2 bosses minus the Final Destination boss, and this is how I would put it. You go to your character's original world, then you go to another, and then you go to a 3rd level, and instead of fighting the regular enemy you probably would fight, what I think they should do is change it to a specific boss battle where either A, you're going to be fighting that character, but they'll have a much more difficult AI. Like, for instance, like Shadowbug Bowser in Subspace Emissary. He, in my opinion, was a difficult opponent to face the first time I fought him. I don't know why. I'm trying to remember. I digress, though. That's just an example. Wait, do I digress? I don't know, I'm a little tired. Anyways, like, if there wasn't a enemy that you could use to be a boss placeholder, then have a character with an incredibly insane AI. Not too insane, but enough to warrant a challenge. Now, if it is a series that can house an enemy like that, like, for instance, with Metroid, the obvious answer would be put in Ridley. Or with an Earthbound stage being your 3rd one, you can put in Porky from Subspace Emissary or wherever Porky was. I think he was in Earthbound 3. Never played Earthbound. Or it's Mother 3, not Earthbound 3. Probably pissed off some people there. Whatever, don't care. Anyways, my point is that you'd be fighting a certain character as a boss from that series, or just a really difficult AI opponent. breaks up the repetition. Moving on from that, skipping ahead all the way to Final Destination, I mentioned before that I think a revamped Master Fortress would be a perfect final boss. One, because just like in this game, the Master Fortress isn't really more of a boss, but more of exploring a level in its entirety. It would fit the theme with adventure mode perfectly. You can also have those little hologram image characters that you fight in the fortress, but just style them to all of the enemies, like a collaboration of all the enemies you faced in certain levels, and put them in the fortress for your run. And by revamp, I mean like a total redesign of the Master Fortress from this game. That way people can't easily just figure out how to beat it like they did in this game, because Master Fortress is honestly short. And if it was revamped, I think there's more opportunity to expand upon it. I'm not going to go into detail on how they can expand it in every way, just only in the way that I mentioned, which was adding the enemies from your adventure in like the form that Master Fortress gives certain enemies, and then implementing them however they can within the fortress. And that's pretty much how I do adventure mode. I say 7 series because the thing is that with adventure mode in the original, it was, I believe, a total of 11 different stages, not counting how many scenarios you went through, just like going off a series. And I can see how that could be a bit for some people. So I figured shortening it and giving the randomization would be a good variety and give people an incentive to want to replay the mode, because I feel that one player mode doesn't get enough. But if that's not enough incentive, I do have another method as to reward. Let's see, with adventure mode and classic mode throughout the series, at the end of it you always got a congratulations picture and a small clip show with that fanfare. What I would recommend they do is, instead of giving all of that, they go the fighting game route, because this already has plenty of similarities to a fighting game. People consider it a fighting game, but like do the regular and give a cinematic ending for each of the characters. Just like Tekken or Street Fighter, mainly Tekken is what I'm getting at. Because you can go back to pretty much all of Tekken's arcade modes, and each character has their own cinematic ending. And the thing is that if they're not going to bring Subspace Emissary 2 and bring adventure mode back, I think the next best thing in terms of having cutscenes again would be cinematic endings. Because, in my opinion, I feel that a majority of the community loves just seeing these characters interact, and not just when they're punching each other in the face. I mean, you look back at Subspace Emissary and look at some of the cutscenes. Some of people's favorites is King Dedede, Luigi, and Ness all together at once when Wario confronts them. My personal favorite is when Link and Zelda resurrect Ganondorf to pretty much like distinguish the common enemy, and Ganondorf having to put away his hatred for life or them in order to help, because you can see like his reluctance in it, but he like sucks it up and just goes ahead to fight Taboo along with everyone else. And I think probably what a lot of people's favorite scene is when all the characters meet up and then they get into the halberd to launch the attack into subspace, and then start flying while that giant random subspace ship starts shooting at them, only for Kirby to come out of nowhere with the Dragoon and destroy it completely. And then you have that shot of everybody inside the subspace getting ready to explore. It is fantastic. So, I mean, we don't have to have cutscenes like that because it's not a whole adventure with everybody. But something where some of the characters interact. And I'm not talking about characters within their own series, like Mario characters only, Zelda characters only. Like, have Yoshi and Kirby interact, or Ganondorf using up all the all these different Robs to help him defeat Link and Zelda and then obtain the Triforce, just something like that. Because I'm pretty sure we all want to see something like that. Like, just for an example, think of a callback to, like, if they made a callback with a Fire Emblem ending with Marth leading a charge against an enemy army, and then his army starting to fail, one of his comrades or he himself is on the verge of taking one for the team and pretty much losing the war or whatever, and then all of a sudden he gets saved by Meta Knight, who joins in, and then Ike joins in, and it would be a nice callback to Subspace Emissary. Or just something where, like in most people's comics or fan animation, they have characters that they like to pair up, and they have their own little scenario. I'm not going to give any examples because I don't really know many. But let's say, well, actually I do know one. Again, going back with Meta Knight and Fire Emblem, let's say that there's one with Lucina masked and Meta Knight teaming up in some form or meeting each other, only for Meta Knight to see Lucina unmasked and then, I don't know, like have like a small little child crush or something. You know, the possibilities are endless. And like I said, I think everybody in the community would just love to see these interactions with each other from different series. I mean, I would. Not to mention, with all these different cinematic cutscenes or endings, I feel it would give a great incentive for everyone to play. Now, I understand that, excuse me. I understand that these cutscenes will most likely be leaked onto YouTube, which is, I believe, the initial reason why there's no Subspace Emissary 2, because Sakurai was disheartened that the cutscenes were leaked online. But let's be honest, has that really stopped anybody from ever playing and experiencing Subspace Emissary? And the other thing is that although I would recommend that they voice the cutscenes, they don't all have to be voiced because it's Nintendo. It's the land of silent protagonists. Or just silent characters in general, so I wouldn't expect much dialogue to begin with. But if that was something that they would be concerned about, I mean, just look at Subspace Emissary. There's little to no dialogue there. At any rate, though, that would be my biggest incentive to wanting to play it, because, you know, what more do I need to say? I'm trying to think if there is anything else I'm missing, though. I think I got just about all of that. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to wrap this up because it's going on a lot longer than I thought it would. Last few things I want to talk about is All-Star mode, the event mode, stadium, and unlockable characters. So, real quick, I'm gonna go with event mode first. Event mode, I replayed Smash 4's event mode just to get a gist of my thoughts before going into this. And I'm gonna say that first off, Melee's event mode was phenomenal. I love everything about it from beginning to end. I thought it was a nice blend of random challenges and unique challenges that you can't play any way else. Like, yeah, you can have an all Pokemon battle with Pokeballs spawning, but you can't just make it to where you can't hurt your opponent unless you use a Pokemon. Event mode pretty much got that covered for you. Or where you can fight the wireframes and a Jigglypuff and only summon legendary Pokemon. Or the Yoshi's Egg event where there was a new item in the form of a Yoshi Egg, or at least an item reskinned as a Yoshi Egg, and you had to protect that from 3 different opponents. That's the type of events that I was looking for in the last 2 games. And to my knowledge, there is no such thing. Now, as I said, I played Smash 4's event mode, and I was honestly surprised at how decently it was done, because I thought it was just going to be like just some boring random matches, but they do have their own unique takes on some things. Like, for instance, the I think, is it Hammer Brothers? The Hammer Brothers level, the one with the giant building where you have to destroy the bombs in order for the levels to keep going down. They actually designed it so that you could destroy the entire building. I like little details like that. But I wanted more, and I felt that I wasn't given more. Like, the most in terms of diversity otherwise that I can remember is fighting a horde of Donkey Kongs that had bunny hoods attached to them, which doesn't really do much for me. The other thing is that a lot of the battles were character locked, especially with Mario, which was really annoying for me personally. When I played Melee's event mode, yeah, there were a lot less characters, and I can understand why there's not a lot of locked characters in that game as opposed to Smash 4. But still, that doesn't change the fact that you can make these challenges fairly unique. The only thing I can remember from Smash 4, other than the ones I've mentioned, is the final one, which is basically a 4-on-1 where you have to fight 2 characters at a time, and it was the big 4: Pac-Man, Mega Man, Sonic, and Mario, which honestly was pretty damn weak compared to the first final showdown, which was Giga Bowser, Mewtwo, and Ganondorf. But the thing I'm trying to get at is, if they do make a return with event mode, I would really appreciate if they bring some more unique variety to the challenges. Again, like the Yoshi's Egg, the legendary Pokemon event, and even the Trophy Tussle event. See, with the Trophy Tussle, for anyone who's not aware, it basically took a trophy that you could unlock through beating the event, and they used that as the base for their stage. It would be a free-for-all, but you'd be fighting on top of the trophy. And these came in the form of a Goomba, Entei from Pokemon, and Majora's Mask from Zelda. The other thing about event mode is my biggest gripe is the difficulty setting. I feel that Melee did it perfect, where it gradually became much harder the more deeper you got into the events. And in Brawl and in this game, they made it to where the events can all be played on an easy mode, a normal mode, or a hard mode, which I found very, very irritating, because to me that limits the challenge. Of course, you can always play on hard mode, but see, then everything becomes stale because you're always going to be playing on hard mode or easy mode or normal mode. I feel that just like with all video games, the challenge should get harder the further you get into something. And that's why I remember Melee's event mode the most, because as it got harder, I kept replaying those events over and over and over again. But it was a fun challenge. Whereas this is, once you master hard mode on this event, then pretty much everything else has the same difficulty standard. So what I would propose is that they go back to the Melee style. I sound like a Melee fanboy, I understand that. But what I recommend is they go to the Melee style where it doesn't have a difficulty setting, and it's all just like easy from the beginning and hard at the end. But if they are hell-bent on keeping a difficulty setting, I would at least recommend that you get the option to go on a harder difficulty or change difficulties after completing the event. That's how I would do it personally. Because I just feel that there was something going on. Yeah, I just feel that once you complete something in hard mode and then do it another 50 times, the challenge doesn't increase. It may increase in terms of what you have to do, but that's easily adaptable. And the challenge, if anything, it gets easier because you're so accustomed to doing this difficulty setting. Like, all the characters have this difficulty aspect toward them. I hope it's making some sort of sense. Like, nothing ever really feels like it increases. It, like, once you mastered one character on hard mode, you've pretty much mastered most of them. I know that's not the case with everything, and again, event mode has a lot of different matches, but that's personally how I feel. So, with that, all I have left to talk about is All-Star mode and the unlockables, and these is going to coincide with each other. So first off, I'm going to say that All-Star mode, I feel, doesn't really need to change. And if it does, it does. Whether it's the timeline that they did in Smash 4, where you fight characters from 1980 or whatever, all the way to 2015. Like, that one I don't mind. If it's a random session of characters up until the last match being a multi-man horde, I don't mind that either. Personally, I've never really thought too much into All-Star mode. It's more of the potential it has in other modes that I've seen, and a lot of people have seen that too, especially if you've played Smash Run and know one of the best things about it, which is probably the only good thing about it. But I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm going to talk about that later. The one thing I will say about All-Star mode is I would keep it as a locked mode from the beginning, unlike Smash 4, and this is why. Like I said earlier, I believe that unlockable characters should remain, because a lot of people have the boring mentality where once they get the game, they just start playing online, and they just want all the characters unlocked for them. I understand that a lot of people just want to play online and that's all they're gonna do, but again, there's just so much more to the game. I feel it's a waste, and I really don't want people who's developed the game to feel that way when people are not playing everything. I feel it limits the passion for the people who put heart into other modes and stuff, only for one to be used. Now, I know some games are revolved around online play only, but Smash Brothers, I feel, is not one of those games. Now, as much as I'd like the games, or not the games, the characters to have certain requirements to be unlocked, just like in Melee, I can understand where people would be pissed. I don't want to make it too easy, though, to where you can SD 70 times to get every single character after beating them in one match. So this is what I would propose. Instead of All-Star mode at the beginning, it would be a secret arena mode, where basically what you would do is kind of like how there's crazy passes in this game. There would be like arena passes in the next game where you can use those passes to play the mode, and you would be able to fight at random a secret character. To unlock these, what I would do is utilize those coins they like to keep bringing back and actually have a decent shop that isn't limited to just trophies. I would give custom moves if they return, the passes that I've mentioned before, trophies can remain, and other things. Hell, even stages if they decide to keep them locked again, which they did in pretty much all these games. So yeah, like you could buy stages, you can buy custom moves and all that stuff. It would be a great way to complete the game easier than doing half of the shit that you have to do in this and in the 3DS version. So going back to the passes though, have the arena passes on the HUD, or the arena mode on the HUD, and then you get to fight a secret character. Once you unlock all the secret characters, then it becomes All-Star mode on the HUD. And that's how I would plan it out, because I feel that All-Star mode just did not work out well at all when it came to this game, and it felt even worse when you got all the characters. So I mean, not to mention that you could easily get all the final Smash trophies just from starting on All-Star mode and then unlocking the characters as you went along. But I digress on that part. But that's how I would do it. And the way that you would earn coins or earn the passes, I said, would be to buy them from the shop. But to get the currency for the shop, you would be playing Classic mode and the mentioned Adventure mode. Or you can do it by playing versus matches offline, or you can go online and play matches. The difference is that you get more coin from playing Adventure or Classic mode, and that would be the extra incentive to playing those modes. That's my take on it. But with that, I think we'll pretty much wrap everything up here, because I pretty much got all my thoughts down. And trust me, if I read through the script, it would be just as long. I mean, maybe not, but it's more or less the same length. So, we'll leave off from now here, and next time on my discussions, we will be talking about, or I will be talking about stages and music. I don't really have that much to say because I want to save my thoughts on characters for the other videos, and I don't want it all to like kind of blend in, you know? So, I can understand if that last opinion of mine irked some people, or if any of my other opinions irked some people. But I'm all ears on how you want to discuss it. So leave your comment below. Do you agree with my opinion? Do you disagree with my opinion? Or do you even have your own ideas as to what you would do with one-player mode? Would you take out Classic mode? Would you return Adventure mode? Would you make a new mode? You can go ahead and put down if you want Subspace Emissary 2. Overall, why? On everything. The only thing I ask is that everybody keep it civil as possible. If you don't want to leave a comment below, you can also follow me on Twitter. My Twitter's in the description below, and you can contact me there with your opinion, whether you like or dislike my opinion. Again, my purpose of doing this series is to invoke discussion and broaden everyone's view on certain topics when it comes to Smash, aside from characters, despite the fact I will be talking about characters soon. So I hope you at least enjoyed the video, despite how long it is. Again, I'll try to make it shorter for future ones, but I make no promises. So I'll see you guys next time for Stages and Music.